Handguns put holes in people, rifles put holes through people, and shotguns tear chunks of off of people when properly applied. And then you put a visible red dot on them, they're like, oh, okay, I'll get on the ground now. Okay, cool. I'm like, hey man, I don't want to shoot anybody. I do believe like the Russian military came up with a weapon to shoot sharks underwater to like when they were doing underwater ops. It's very Russian to me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Total Recoil, where we talk about weapons and equipment from your favorite video games. I'm Israel Wright, former Green Beret, and with me again is Paul Meixner.
Hi, I'm Paul Meixner, former U.S. Army infantryman, and I teach weapons and tactics both in the film industry and outside of the film industry.
So Paul, today we're going to be looking at game footage from Call of Duty Black Ops
4. I wonder if they call it Garrison because you only use it on base.
That's right.
This is definitely modeled after Beretta 93. I think 93R maybe?
Yeah.
That's a real weapon. It's a fully auto. So I have one that I teach people how to shoot with. I'm not a fan of double action, and I'm not a fan of frame mounted safeties. That's a big European, or slide mounted safeties. I like frame mounted safeties. It's a great weapon. It's a soft shooter. This is realistic. This is definitely modeled after a real weapon. I like them mostly, but it's so wide that it's gonna take a little bit of time to make sure that you have that skinny front sight post perfectly in it. That's my only main issue with this. Otherwise, it's very realistic. It's very cool looking. Big extended magazine. That's really, yep, they changed the base plate out. Those have become really reliable now. I have a few of those. We roll on missions with like one earplug in. Near the end of like my first tour, that's when we got the fancy Peltors and everything.
I actually went in with Peltors because I think it's because
well,
I was in
you're
SF.
special ed.
Yes.
I mean special op. I mean, yeah. The loud noise is actually the gas that is let out when you hit the primer and hits the powder. It's the gas coming out of the barrel and then interacting with the ambient temperature outside, and that's what makes the loud bang. And so a suppressor has baffles that cool the gas as it comes out, and it's less noticeable. So in reality, it's a safety thing, man. It saves your hearing, it saves your night vision too if you're shooting at night, and it's less likely there's still gonna be a little bit of flash coming out of there depending upon the weapon system, but you're also not advertising to all the bad guys where you are. So that's kind of a plus.
MX-9.
What we got here. A lot of good going on and some not so good. That's a really interesting rail on top, right? I don't know what all those little things are.
Really spaced out Picatinny.
What I like is the folding buttstock looks realistic.
Are we looking at like a fancy schmancy version of like an MP5?
So it definitely does look like it's inspired by the MP5. If you look up by the front sight post and you see that bolt, it started with the Spanish Setme, and then H&K adapted it for their battle rifles, and then they did it for their 5.56 rifle, and then they did it with their MP5, and that's that famous. Did you ever run an MP5 before?
No, never did. No.
They're some of the softest, nicest shooting subguns, or PCCs. You can call them pistol caliber carbines, or subguns, whatever you want to call them. Now, if you notice, there's a notch, so you pull the bolt back and you set it up, and then the famous HK slap is you slap it down and then it rides forward.
Very Hollywood.
Yeah.
Very John Wick.
And it's cool, man. It's a very satisfying feel. I like the sling mounts on it. The sights are decent. The rear sight's kind of big for me. It's a little big. I would have that window a little smaller. What's also neat is it has some serrations on the front, or notches. Kind of looks like almost you'd see on a Picatinny rail. And what's neat about that is you can brace up against a barricade, stabilize your weapon, and then take much more accurate shots. So I really like that. I think the biggest artistic license, someone that maybe likes guns but doesn't shoot them very often, is the trigger on that thing.
It's not coming from the top, it's coming from the bottom.
I feel like that would be a really sloppy, grainy trigger pull. I don't understand at all. If all the internals and the mechanisms are right above it, why doesn't it just come down from the top? So that's something that doesn't make sense to me.
What is that? We got a little tube on the right-hand side there.
I have no idea if that's to direct gases, but that doesn't make sense because they'd go right into your
Maybe
face.
Heat expenditure? I don't know.
I don't know if it'd be like a heat sink on it. I'm not sure what that thing. We'll see if he actually uses it, or she, or
Maybe this is Pathfinder from Apex Legends.
I totally know what that is. Totally. All right, so we got just a pump shotgun. It looks like it's a little tacticaled out. It looks like a barrel shroud on there. Now that's an interesting barrel shroud. A barrel shroud is something that you put over the top of the barrel to keep from burning yourself if you use it often. The trough or the valley, so to speak, and that is a little wide, but it's not bad.
It's like you got a bit of a loop on the front.
Yeah. So that's the thing with short-barreled shotguns. Keeps you from like accidentally putting your hand in front, but also it just gives you better purchase on the grip. Like say, you get blood and mud and sweat on that thing, and you start to slip off the grip a little bit. Oh, there's that feed tube. Look at that. Oh, and he.
Yeah.
So generally, when you're pumping a shotgun, you either have to first pull the trigger, or there's a lever or a button that releases the slide that allows you to pump
what?
it.
Sarah
Otherwise-
Connor, Judgment Day, Terminator
Right?
2.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can, but you gotta hit that button first. Handguns put holes in people, rifles put holes through people, and shotguns tear chunks of off of people when properly applied. So shotguns are devastating. Cordite.
Cordite.
So this is like an old type of propellant, like a type of gunpowder.
Right, that's where we're getting the name from.
Yeah, so this reminds me of the FNP90.
Is it? Are we looking at a bullpup style right now?
This is a bullpup. I think bullpups can be great. Now, what's interesting about this too is the magazine's on the side. And I wonder, it looks like there's a mag release underneath, but it also looks like there's a latch.
It would definitely take some adjustment to learn how to quickly load something
Well,
like
that
that.
and like it's gonna throw, depending upon like how big that magazine is, it's gonna throw off the balance of your weapon system. The reason I think they would do this, if I get into their world and try to justify everything, is this has some new mechanism, some new action that's more smooth, it's like more accurate, and this looks like there's a shelf that you, or a ledge that you hook in and then you slap it into place. Man, it's real short. So you got that charging handle there. That's cool. It's a reciprocating charging handle. That means it moves back and forth as the action works. I used physical labors when I was deployed to make up for my really crappy Arabic. And like, you know, when you kick down somebody's door at 2 in the morning and you're screaming at them in terrible Arabic to get on the ground, or Farsi, or whatever language, whatever country you're in, and they're like, no, and then you put a visible red dot on them, they're like, oh, okay, I'll get on the ground now. Okay, cool. I'm like, hey man, I don't want to shoot anybody. This one kind of weirds me out a little bit, but it was all right. Okay, look at this thing. I mean, if it's called the Rampart 17, it's probably a take on the Scar 17. What's interesting is like the magazine is at quite an extreme angle. Muzzle device looks good, front sight post looks great. We got like some type of like infrared or visible laser on the front. You have the, you remember taping off all the cords and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. It looks like everything's kind of real bolted down and
So did you guys, when you were on teams, did they have like SOPs where everybody had to have their rifle a certain way and your gear a certain way? Because I know some people do that and some people are like, do your own thing.
For us, no. Everybody had the same general setup and mods for their weapons. Mine was slightly.
I was gonna say, because you're a lefty.
I was a lefty, yeah. And so it was a little bit different for me, but no, generally we all had the same.
Okay,
SOP.
cool. So the sights look very realistic. You got the knobs for elevation.
Yeah, I like that.
And then it looks like something on the side for windage. I'd always land on my rifle for airborne jumps. Rifle you put to the side, and just come back. God damn it.
I never did much shooting underwater.
I mean, you
Possible?
can, yes, and depending upon the weapon system, it's going to malfunction sooner or later. I think the Russians came up with like an AK variant to shoot sharks with. Really do it. It doesn't look like an AK.
Those Russians.
And I should look more into it, but like I do believe like the Russian military came up with a weapon to shoot sharks underwater to like when they were doing underwater ops. It's very Russian to me.
The Koshka. Sounds very Russian. Oh, it's a marksmanship rifle.
Yeah, okay, so you know, you got your pencil on the side. That's a nice little touch. I don't know how long it's gonna sit there if you're running around.
No, wait a minute. It looks like we're almost like a cylinder in there somewhere, like a revolver.
Yeah, so I'm curious what this is gonna be. If this is like a magazine fed or what's going on with this. Okay, so this is a bolt gun, and it looks pretty fluid. It looks like an interesting stick bipod that maybe that twists down.
Yeah.
Bipod's great for distance shooting, you know, as long as it's not too heavy. Then you're going to be, you know, much more reliable looking through that scope, much more consistent. That's the word I'm looking for. The bipod looks cool. That's interesting. I like that it looks like they wrapped a rag around it just to break up the profile a little bit. It's a bullpup magazine fed.
So confused.
So, yeah, I don't understand what this is. It looks cool, and it's movement, you know?
Yeah.
It's cool animation for like the animators to work on. I don't see in a real world setting where this would be practical.
Interesting.
Just that part, but it looks cool. This is
tactical
look
roll
at the
there.
gigantic muzzle brake on this thing too. All right, the Outlaw. Ooh, we got a revolver. This is sexy looking. This is pretty modern looking.
That's a big old chamber, man. That's a big old round.
Yeah. This looks like a bolt gun though, which technically would be a single action. Now that's an LVPO right there. That's a light variable powered optic. They are becoming extremely popular. I like these. And that's very cool looking. It's very realistic looking.
Very sleek. I like the modern look.
The mount looks, you know, very durable, very beefy. The bipod looks realistic. You got a rail up front for a front sight post.
Wait, is that just one round in there, or is that maybe an internal magazine?
I think it's an internal cylinder. So the cylinder inside that moves, which is, well, I don't know why the outside's also moving. So this is, or maybe it's just moving back and forth a little bit. That looks like a flip-up iron sight. We call them BIS, backup iron sight. If you're running an optic, you generally want to have backup sights in case that optic
like
breaks.
you say, things break. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd run a reflexive sight on a large caliber bolt gun. But yeah, it's cool. Looks realistic. Paladin HB50. Oh, cool. This looks like it's based off the Barrett. Big old muzzle brake on the front. And that bipod's interesting. It's pretty wide.
Yeah, it's wide. It's almost mounted on the side instead of maybe underneath. That's interesting.
Yep. And then we got that sling mount down there. Oh no, this is a bolt gun. And it's crazy that they have a reflexive sight on a bolt gun.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the first Barretts that the Army, the U.S. military used were bolt guns, and then they quickly switched to semi-autos. Oh, look at that big muzzle brake, that like tube kind. That's a different muzzle brake than the one we saw earlier. It directs all the gases to the side. I've fired a bunch of Barretts before. It's fun seeing the little, like, all the dust kick up and everything. It's
I fired a Barrett before too, yeah.
Oh, that's
Solid
cute.
gold.
That's cute. That doesn't stand out at all.
It's gold, it's gold.
When used correctly, they're a wonderful weapon system. All right, so we got
Maybe a saw type thing we're looking at?
Yeah. So
What kind of bullets are those?
These light, very light machine guns will always have a special place in my heart since I was a saw gunner. And sometimes I'd carry the 240 on my own with like 700 rounds, which that's a lot. That's a lot for one man to carry. But I was stupid and young, and so these are interesting looking rounds, and they remind me of an H&K. I'm a big H&K guy. H&K came out with this system that had caseless ammunition, and it was like a explosive, like a plastic style explosive surrounding it. I don't know why they'd be triangular. I don't understand that unless maybe someone can explain that with physics to me. But that's what this looks like. It looks like caseless ammunition. I like the front sight post. It's protecting the little the little nub in front.
It's funny because when he's unloading it looks like the top tray goes to the side.
Okay. Whoa. The feet cover just flies off.
Yeah,
and
but
then the new box
has
puts
the
the
feet
cover on it,
Yeah.
which is cool. That's a neat design. I feel like that'd be a little more expensive. Maybe it's lighter weight. Maybe it's a polymer, and they know the shelf life of that polymer.
Right.
And it's a faster system. Front sight post looks great. I really like that they have the elevation on the side there, so you can range out your round. Because bullets don't go in a straight line. They drop with gravity. Yep. So
Hellion Salvo.
okay, so this I had a huge issue with. Because I'm like, what the hell is that on top of the weapon system?
What are those two little knobby things?
And you know what it looks like to me? This looks like the heat exchanger in a furnace. Is this like to dissipate heat, so there's no backblast? Like, why is it in your face? And then, when you pointed out that it looks like it's strapped on with leather or some type of polymer, that's extra rounds. I'm like, that makes perfect sense.
I'm here for you, man. That's why I'm the host. Yeah.
So what's interesting about this is loading it into the front.
I love the kind of military, drab green, industrial.
I like all the buckles on it.
Yeah, the straps
That's
and
neat,
buckles.
Does
seem to have like a real narrow, there's like a little stub on front of the round right there.
I wonder if that's like a pressure set off. I mean, they're very capable. They're wonderful to have.
Ballistic Shield.
Okay. Ballistic shields make a lot of sense for law enforcement dealing with hostage situations. And again, like the idea of police is to protect people, right? You don't want to go in and try to hurt people. So any way that you can slow the process down before violence is committed, the better. You know what I mean? And protect your guys. This looks like it pops up. So maybe it's even something that folds.
Now it looks like he's got a little handle where you can stick in
a little gun port. You do need to like really brace yourself and stabilize that weapon, and this would definitely help with that. Running through it like this, I understand it's a video game, so I'm fine, but like jumping off of bridges with it and holding it up. I mean, this has got to be pretty light.
So, Paul, what did you think about the stuff that we saw from Call of Duty Black Ops 4?
It was fun. Like, I want to play the game now. I'm not a super huge video game guy. Like I said, I'd rather like shoot in real life. But it looked fun. Nothing looked too outrageous that it would I'd be like, come on. It was just, other than maybe that rocket launcher was interesting.
Yeah.
But rocket launchers are so much fun, I don't think I'd care.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think they did a great job. I really do. It's supposed to be futuristic. It's supposed to be kind of sci-fi-ish, right?
Yeah.
And I think they accomplished their goal. So it was awesome.
Folks, if you want to see more videos like this, go over to Gamology's Facebook and YouTube page. If you want to hang out with me a little bit more, you can check out the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, or go to twitch.tv/myhappyself.
If you want to follow more of my shenanigans, you can check me out on Instagram at Mav11B. That's MAV11B. Thank you.
Oh, hi everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Total Recoil. That's all right.
Get some, bah, 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 bah. Wall of fire comes out, and then I hear, cut! And I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna get fired, The whole set started clapping and stuff.